you've been in office now about a month. What has surprised you the most about being a U.S. Senator?
Well, yeah, only a month so far, so I'm still learning a lot, but I'm still pinching myself every day. It's an incredible place. A lot of history's been made here, and I'm certainly reminded that the people of Ohio have given me a great honor, and I intend to use that honor and that responsibility to do their work, and that's what we've been trying to do the past month. That's what we're going to be doing the next 6 years. Big surprise, there are a lot of things. I mean, I'd say one surprise to me, certainly coming from the private sector, is that senators take a lot of time off. We were sworn in on January the 3rd. We took a 3-week recess after that, and of course, I used that time to go back home and spend a lot of time across the state of Ohio. But it's interesting. The legislative calendar does not work like a normal job, and because of that, you've got to try to find opportunities to get things done. That's certainly what we've done during our time here.
I see where you've gotten your committee assignments. Is there anything specific, any topic specifically you're hoping to push forward on any of those on behalf of Ohio?
Yeah, so I'm on the Committee on Aging, and one of the things I care very deeply about is protecting Social Security and Medicare for this generation and also generations to come. I'm on the Banking Committee, which is probably the committee that I think I'll spend the most time on. Has pretty broad purview over the financial sector, a lot of the investment capital that comes in to our country. And there are a lot of things that I worry about when I look at what's going on in the American economy today. I see a lot of companies getting more and more involved in the political process, being a little bit more politically aggressive even with their own workers. And I'm one of these guys, maybe it's old-fashioned, where I want Coca-Cola to make Coke. I want them to make a good beverage. I don't want them to get too involved in our American political process. I think that's for voters and for elected officials. And so I worry a lot that the trend of businesses becoming more involved in politics is actually driven by some federal regulations. I'd like to work on that issue. And I think, by the way, if we get businesses a little bit out of politics, maybe they focus a little bit more on their core business, which will create some wealth along the way. It won't just make our political process work better. So I think all those things and more we'll get to work on. I'm also on the Commerce Committee, which has oversight of the technology industry and a lot of big parts of our economy. Obviously I care a lot about, I think most Ohioans care a lot about the jobs that we have and whether we live in a growing country, a growing economy. So there's a lot of work to do, and I think those committees will give me a good platform to get my hands dirty.
Obviously, there's been issues with confidential documents being found at several people's homes, including current President Biden, former President Trump, former Vice President Pence. What do you think needs to be done about this? And should Congress, if not the American people, know what's in those documents so we know what could or could not have been released?
Well, my first observation about the whole classified document conversation we're having right now is really that it goes to the heart of why I think a lot of Americans mistrust the leadership of the federal FBI. If you think about the way that they treated President Trump, they sent armed agents into an unexpected and unannounced raid of the president's residence, and you compare that to the treatment of Joe Biden, where they basically gave the president a few days heads up and said, we're going to stop by in a few days, please prepare yourself. That's a totally different way to approach an investigation. And I think a lot of Americans, Democrat or Republican, we just want to get to the bottom of this, and we want everybody treated fairly. That's the fundamental hallmark of American justice. Black, white, Democrat, Republican, rich or poor, everybody should be subjected to the same standards. So we're going to learn a lot about this. For the particular Joe Biden's documents, the thing that worries me the most is the lack of chain of custody. In other words, we don't really know who's seen those documents. We don't know if God forbid, a person who means ill for the United States has actually gotten access to those documents. We don't know where they've been over decades. Some of these documents come even from his Senate tenure 10, 20 years ago. So there's a lot that we need to learn, and I hope that the FBI is going to conduct a fair and impartial investigation here, because the American people deserve it.
Following up to you, so like I said, do you think Congress, if not the American people, needs to know what's in those documents so we can assess the possible risk?
Yeah, that's right. I think Congress needs to know what's in the documents. Certainly, as our job as elected leaders is to provide some oversight of the federal government. But the reason is not just because we're curious. The reason is because we need to know what our enemies know about our country. And unfortunately, it's impossible to say what potential secrets are out there if we don't even know what are in these documents in the first place.
Last question, switching to Ukraine, there's obviously been some news out of that country involving possible corruption at their top level.
Sure.
How much more money do you think we should continue supporting them at the levels that we have, and how much more oversight should Congress have on the money that's going over there?
Well, James, I've been an early skeptic of our never-ending supply of money and weapons to the Ukrainians. Not because I like the Russians and not because I think that the Ukrainians deserve to be invaded. They certainly didn't. It was an unjust invasion. But because I don't think that this war's escalation is in our national interest. You have the Biden administration saying that we're going to have to choose soon between arming the Ukrainians or arming our own troops. That's an easy call for me. We need to be arming our own troops. We don't know how much money we're actually spending in Ukraine. We don't know where it's going. And to your point, we know that there have been a lot of senior officials implicated in a corruption scandal in just the last month. So my view is we need to get to the bottom of it. We need to, one, know how much money we've spent. Two, know where that money has gone. And three, use the powers of America diplomatically to try to de-escalate this war and bring peace to the region. I think that's in everybody's best interest, including the Ukrainians.
Senator, thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Bye.